Have you ever wondered what happened in the years that history doesn't tell about the life of Jesus? Between his childhood in Nazareth and the beginning of his mission, there is a period of absolute silence, a mystery that has spanned centuries. And if I told you that, in those unknown years, there are signs of a spiritual journey that few know about, a journey that could completely change what we know about his mission and his legacy. If you want to discover the secrets that have been hidden for so long and understand what happened during the lost years of Jesus, leave your comment with the word mystery and subscribe to the channel to follow this revelation to the end. Now, get ready. What you're about to hear may transform your way of seeing history. The silence in history. In the well-known accounts, the Bible speaks about the birth of Jesus, his flight with the family to Egypt, and his return to Galilee. After that, the next appearance happens when he is already around 30 years old, beginning his public mission. But what about the years between those two moments? How did he go from a child with divine gifts to a master whose wisdom and power changed humanity? This gap is referred to by scholars as the lost years. For centuries, many have wondered, where was he? What did he learn? Theories of the ancient manuscripts. Some ancient manuscripts, found in unexpected places like the Himalayas and regions of the Middle East, suggest that Jesus traveled far during his youth. There are accounts that mention his presence in regions such as India, Persia, and Egypt, where he is said to have sought deep spiritual knowledge. But why would Jesus, a young man born in Nazareth, undertake such a long journey? The answer may lie in his desire to understand the great spiritual truths and to strengthen his mission with ancestral knowledge that transcends cultures. The connection with the East. There is an ancient Tibetan tale about a young sage from the West named Issa, who preached about love, compassion, and spiritual truth. The Tibetan monks say that he arrived as a humble student, but departed as an enlightened master. Did Jesus seek answers in ancient teachings that prepared him for the great mission? It is here that the mystery intensifies, the purpose of the journey. If Jesus undertook this journey, what he sought was not fame or power, but a greater purpose. His mission was not just to heal and preach, but to reveal the divine essence that dwells within each of us. And for that, he would need to experience teachings that transcended borders and beliefs, and then spread them in an accessible way to everyone. But did he come back alone, or was something deeper brought back with him? The lost years of Jesus are not just a historical mystery. They are a key to understanding his spiritual journey and the roots of his teaching. If he truly walked that path, then his mission was far beyond what we imagine. In the next section, we will explore detailed accounts of where he was and what he learned during this mysterious journey. The secret paths of Jesus' journey. If the ancient accounts are true, Jesus not only traveled but walked sacred paths that few know. Places where spiritual masters preserved ancient secrets and imparted teachings that could transform any seeker into an enlightened being. The passage through India. The kingdom of Dharma. According to some records, Jesus would have spent years in regions of India studying the Vedas and learning from Hindu masters. There, he would have come into contact with teachings on compassion, detachment, and divine unity. Many believe that it was there that he first heard something that would shape his message. The divine is not only in the heavens, but also within each of us. This would explain why, years later, he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." But it wasn't only in India that his spiritual journey intensified, the meeting with the Magi in Persia. Another intriguing point is Jesus' passage through ancient Persia, where he is said to have studied Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest monotheistic religions. There, he learned about the eternal battle between light and darkness, and how truth always prevails over lies. Curiously, this resonates with his own teachings about being the light of the world in the midst of darkness. Could this contact have prepared him to resist temptations and remain steadfast in his mission? The secret knowledge of Egypt was known as a cradle of hidden wisdom. Many believe that Jesus spent a period in Egyptian temples where he learned about the transition between life and death, spiritual resurrection, and the true meaning of eternity. There, he would have understood that death is not the end, but a passage. This would explain the serenity with which he faced his fate on the cross, for he knew that his spirit could not be destroyed. The journey of self-discovery. Each place visited was not just an external learning experience, but a stage in his internal journey. Jesus was not merely seeking knowledge, he was seeking to become a channel for something greater. The transformation he underwent in those places would be essential to prepare his soul for the challenges to come. The journey was not about reaching a physical destination, but about discovering the depth of his divine mission. If Jesus truly walked these paths, then he not only received sacred teachings, he lived them and incorporated them into his essence. And upon returning, he was ready to share a truth that was not limited to a single culture or people, but to all of humanity. The hidden teachings in the words of Jesus. If we analyze the words of Jesus from a new perspective, it is possible to perceive echoes of ancestral traditions that he may have encountered on his journey. His teachings carry a mystery that goes beyond the simplicity of his parables. Behind each metaphor, there is an invitation to a deeper truth. The message of the inner kingdom. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." For many people of his time, this phrase was revolutionary. The concept that the connection with the divine was not in stone temples, but within each human being, was something that challenged religious dogmas. But this teaching closely resembles the principles he may have learned in the East, where meditation and the inner journey are considered paths to enlightenment. Was he teaching us to turn our attention inward, as the spiritual masters of the Himalayas did? The parable of light, another powerful teaching of Jesus, was, "No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a stand, where it gives light to everyone in the house." This parable reminds us of the Zoroastrian lessons about the importance of letting the inner light shine amidst the darkness of the world. No matter how much the darkness tries to dominate, the smallest flame is capable of illuminating the entire environment. This teaching was not just poetic, it was a call for each of us to recognize and manifest the divine light we carry, the path of love and compassion. When Jesus said, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you," he revealed a profoundly transformative teaching similar to the principles of nonviolence and unconditional compassion practiced in India. He knew that love was not just an emotion, but a force capable of dissolving even the heaviest chains. But to apply this teaching, one needed a level of control over the ego that could only be achieved through deep spiritual practice. The mystery of silence. One of the most enigmatic things about Jesus was his silence in crucial moments. During his trial, he remained silent in the face of the accusations. Many do not understand this attitude, but in various spiritual traditions, silence is a symbol of wisdom and self-mastery. Did he learn during his journeys that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words? That sometimes it is in silence that the greatest truths are revealed? Each teaching of Jesus carries layers of meaning that go beyond words. They point to a universal truth that he seems to have absorbed on his journey, that the divine is not distant, but present in every moment, in every being, the return and the manifestation of the divine. When Jesus returned after his years of spiritual preparation, he was no longer just the young man from Nazareth. Something had changed profoundly. His presence radiated authority and serenity, as if each word and gesture carried a power that came from another dimension. But what did he bring back with him after that mysterious journey? The manifestation. Of miracles, shortly after beginning his mission, Jesus started performing miracles that defied human logic. He healed the sick with a simple touch, calmed storms, and even raised the dead. These acts were not just demonstrations of power, but spiritual messages in action. Many scholars believe that his miracles had a greater purpose, to show that the divine is not limited by the laws of matter. He reminded us that with faith and spiritual connection, we can transcend what seems impossible, the secret of serenity. Amidst chaos, during the most critical moments, such as Judas's betrayal and his capture in Gethsemane, Jesus remained calm. Even when everyone around him panicked, he did not show fear. This absolute serenity is something learned in ancient traditions, such as those practiced by Eastern sages. There it is taught that when the mind aligns with the divine purpose, no external suffering can destroy inner peace. Could it be that this unshakable peace was one of the greatest treasures he brought back from his spiritual journey? The call to inner transformation. Jesus was not looking for followers who would merely admire his actions. He sought people who were willing to transform their own lives. When he said, "Take up your cross and follow me," he was not just speaking of a path of sacrifice, but of a journey of detachment and overcoming. The symbolism of the cross is, in fact, an invitation to leave behind illusions and be reborn into a new life. This teaching reflects the lessons of spiritual rebirth found in ancient Egyptian temples and in Buddhist philosophy, where the self must die for the divine to awaken. The last great test before his crucifixion, Jesus underwent the final test in the Garden of Gethsemane. There he demonstrated his humanity by asking, "Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me." But soon after he accepted his mission. "Thy will be done." This moment shows that the spiritual path is not free of fear or pain, but it is about surrender and the trust that there is a greater purpose. It was there that he proved his journey had not been in vain. When Jesus returned from his journey, he did not bring riches or titles, but he brought a living example that true transformation begins within us. He proved that the path of the Spirit is not easy, but it is the only route to achieve a peace and purpose that transcend the physical world. The last hidden teachings of Jesus. In the final moments before his departure, Jesus shared profound and symbolic lessons, some of which still remain shrouded in mystery. They are words that seem to speak directly to our soul, as if they were destined to cross the centuries and reach us today, reminding us of our true essence. The secret of the Last Supper. The Last Supper was not just a farewell, it was a sacred ritual. In breaking the bread and sharing the wine, Jesus was not only speaking about sacrifice, but also about unity. He made it clear that the true nourishment is not physical but spiritual. When he said, "Do this in memory of me," he was inviting each of us to remember that we are part of something divine. The bread symbolized the body, our human existence, and the wine symbolized the spirit, the divine spark that unites us with the Creator. Could this have been a way to show us that transcendence begins by recognizing the duality within ourselves? The mystery of the words on the cross. During his sacrifice on the cross, Jesus uttered a phrase that still raises questions today. "Father, why have you forsaken me?" Many believe that this phrase shows a moment of extreme pain and questioning, but some scholars see in it a hidden teaching about the human experience. Even those who are closest to the divine can, in moments of trial, feel disconnected. But Jesus did not succumb to despair. In his final moments, he surrendered his spirit. With the assurance that everything was complete, it is finished. The teaching of the Renaissance. The resurrection of Jesus is the greatest symbol of spiritual rebirth. He did not return to prove his victory over death, but to show that the divine essence cannot be destroyed. The body may be wounded, but the spirit remains eternal. This rebirth is a call for all of us to leave behind what binds us, fears, resentments, and illusions, and to be reborn with a new vision of who we are and our purpose. The path of eternity, Jesus did not promise a life without difficulties, but a life with purpose. He showed that true eternity is not just a place, but a state of being. Those who live in connection with the divine already experience this eternity here and now through faith, love, and compassion. The last teachings of Jesus remind us that true victory is not in escaping pain, but in finding peace amidst trials. He left us a spiritual map, not for empty veneration, but for real transformation, the spiritual legacy of Jesus and its echoes in the modern world. When Jesus ascended, his journey did not end. It multiplied in the stories and hearts of those who continued to walk in faith. His legacy was not made of stone temples, but of spiritual truths that defy time and continue to inspire millions around the world. The invisible legacy. After his departure, the world was never the same. The impact of his words and his life crossed borders, cultures, and generations. But his greatest teaching was not a dogma or a rule, but rather the idea that the human being has within themselves the capacity to connect with the divine and become a reflection of that light. Jesus showed that love is the universal language capable of uniting what fear tries to separate. And this message remains alive, even in dark times. The masters who emerged after him, the spiritual influence of Jesus did not stop with his disciples. Over the centuries, men and women have emerged who, inspired by his teachings, spread messages of hope, compassion, and faith. From Francis of Assisi to Mother Teresa, many dedicated their lives to living this journey of service and love. Is it a coincidence that so many spiritual leaders from different eras have found in the words of Jesus a source of courage to face the world's darkness? Or was his journey an eternal call that continues to echo? The call to awakening today. If Jesus were among us today, would his message be different? Maybe not. In times of global crisis, divisions, and uncertainties, the call to awaken remains the same. Abandon the illusions of the ego, seek the truth, and live with purpose. It's not an easy path, but it's a path that liberates. The true awakening begins when we look within and recognize that we are more than our pains, more than our fears. We are part of something greater. The lost years as a mirror for us, just as Jesus sought answers in distant places, perhaps we are being called to embark on our own internal journeys. The lost years symbolize the periods of doubt and search that we all face at some point. The lesson he left us is clear. No matter how long you get lost, the important thing is to find your way back. The spiritual legacy of Jesus is not just a memory of the past. It is an invitation to rewrite our own stories with faith and courage. He showed that, even in the most difficult moments, it is possible to be reborn and become a channel of light for the world. Now, in the final part, let's explore what your mystical journey teaches us about the future and how we can prepare for the spiritual challenges of our time. The mystical journey and the future of spirituality. The journey of Jesus during his lost years shows us that the search for the divine does not happen in straight lines. It is a journey of challenges, doubts, and ultimately revelations. But what can we learn from this in our time? And how can we apply this lesson amidst the dilemmas of modern life? The path of self-discovery. Just as Jesus sought answers outside his homeland, we are also called to step out of our comfort zones, not necessarily in physical journeys, but in internal ones. Often, the answer we seek is not where we expect it to be, but in what we fear to explore: our shadows, our doubts, and even our losses. The silence of Jesus' lost years teaches us that moments of search, when they seem empty, are actually the richest in spiritual growth. The courage to defy expectations. When Jesus returned to his homeland, many were incredulous. Isn't he the son of the carpenter? They couldn't accept that an ordinary person could be a channel of the divine. This reminds us that often our journeys will not be understood by those around us. But Jesus showed us that the mission does not depend on the acceptance of others, but on the fidelity to the purpose that arises in our hearts. The collective journey. The journey of Jesus also reminds us that no one awakens alone. Even though his search was solitary at many moments, his mission was shared with others, disciples, ordinary men and women who, inspired by his message, spread his light. This shows us that in times of crisis, spirituality is not an individual refuge, but a flame that ignites others. We need each other to grow, learn, and strengthen our faith. Preparation for the spiritual future. The lessons from Jesus' lost years prepare us for the spiritual challenges of the present and the future. We live in times where distraction pulls us away from ourselves, and the search for quick answers replaces true wisdom. The message is clear. No matter the noise around us, awakening always begins in silence. And just as Jesus returned, strengthened, from his journey, we too can emerge stronger from our moments of seeking and solitude, the last call to awakening. What the story of Jesus teaches us is that challenges are not signs of abandonment, but invitations to draw closer to the divine. Silence is not absence, it is a space where the truth can be heard. Just as he faced his doubts in Gethsemane and emerged with the certainty that his mission was complete, we too can transform our moments of uncertainty into sources of strength and rebirth. To reflect, the mystical journey of Jesus was not just a personal quest, but a symbol for all of us. His example reminds us that no matter how long we remain lost, there is always a way back. And upon finding it, we not only transform ourselves, but also light the way for others. May this story inspire your own journey and remind you that you too are called to awaken and live with purpose.